Okay, guys, I'm gonna need you to be honest with me. Do we like this shirt? Do we like this shirt? I like this shirt, right? And by the way, if you're wondering where I bought it from, I bought it from Foreman Mills. I don't know if that exists where other people are, but it's like this local resale store, right? And they sell clothes for cheap, right? This clothes. This shirt was like probably like less than $15, which to me is cheap. But like it feels good and it looks good, and like the original retail price was like closer to $30. I like this shirt, so if you want like clothes tips or something, I guess this could be a place for that. Okay, so since I've made my video, my last video, I first of all I noticed that people actually watch the videos, which wow, it's really been a while since I've seen half the views I saw in one of my videos. I got 14 views at the time of my initial recording, and I was like, that's pretty cool. So thanks, that's nice. I appreciate people watching these videos. It's nice. And I got a new subscriber. Jeez, I can't remember their name off the top of my head, but I like you. Thank you for subscribing. So unfortunately, today's lighting is going to be a little bit different from a lot of the other days because it is a little bit murky and rainy where I'm living at. So let me open the blinds for once. And if you hear a fan, that's because I had to put the summer fan in the window. I do have a ceiling fan, but evidently it's not powerful enough or getting the right amount of air to make it not incredibly hot in here. Okay, so things to cover since my last video. For starters, final series is 2-2 right now, the set count. The next game is going to be happening today. That's really the reason I was going to record a video. Recaps of games 3 and 4. I would do those normally, but like, I feel like we already know why things happened. Game 3 was very impressive to me. A very impressive win by the Indiana Pacers, and Game 4 was a very impressive win by the OKC. 3 was just complete domination, front to back, basically, by the Pacers. Game 4 was looking like it was going to be more of the same, and the Thunder managed to pull off a comeback. I was just very surprised. Shea spurred it on by just being Shea, being great. Jalen Williams played really good in Game 3 and 4. At least if you just look at the box score where he was at the end of the game, he played better than he did in Games 1 and 2. I think his defense was better in Games 3 and 4 as well. And he's acclimated more to this Indiana Pacers team. So do I think that the Thunder have figured the Pacers out? Do I think that the Indiana Pacers are going to win this series? Initially, my prediction was busted, obviously, because the Indiana Pacers won 2 games. I thought they were going to win 1 game. My bracket was pretty much screwed though. Game 1, to be quite honest, when Tyrese Haliburton hit that game-winning shot. But what do I think about all those things? And where is the series currently directed at, and where is it heading as a whole? So, for starters, I don't think this series is over, but I do think whoever wins Game 5 tonight will likely win the series. Just how the math works out. Typically, whichever team wins Game 5 in a series that is tied to 2 goes on to win the series. This game is taking place in Oklahoma, so expect their role players to play better because, again, role players play better at home. This is a known fact. I'm not really sure how the statistics would say it, but media has always covered this as basically a fact. Players will tell you it's a fact. The media tells you it's a fact. I'll actually, maybe I'll do it. If I ever get like money from this channel, I'll start an independent research to start doing stuff like that. But seeing as though I make $0 and I'm used to having 0 views on this channel, we're a while away from that. So yeah, but whatever team wins Game 5 is more likely going to win the series. So let's talk about something more important than any of the things. I know the finals is the finals, but like watching the games is much more important than talking about anything else the game. So I do encourage people to actually watch the games. It's much more fun than having me break it down to you. But something I can break down for you that's very interesting and very recent and very topical. That's something that happened Sunday, as a matter of fact, on Father's Day. So, for starters, the Orlando Magic have started the offseason. I will talk about a certain superstar later, but I feel like everyone should know what superstar I'm going to be talking about. So we're going to talk about the less interesting thing, in my opinion, but it's more interesting because something actually happened to some people. So, let me talk about that. Orlando Magic made a trade with the Memphis Grizzlies where they sent out 4 first-round picks. Now, initially when Shams broke the deal, right, because Shams is the new Woj. Just so you guys are not, for those of you who might know who Woj is but not know who Shams is basically our insider who breaks down everything. And I'm gonna pull the trade up on my laptop so I can make sure I cover things as accurately as possible, because if I miss something, it'll be kind of yucky, you know. So let's get that up. I gotta get to my NBA tabs. Yeah, this is it. How's your guys' days going? Tell me about that in the comment section below. I will actually read comments if I get them. I hadn't been checking that before, but it's a statistic that I am very interested in. Tell me how your day's going. Trade with Orlando. Trade Bane, yeah. So Orlando gets Desmond Bane, which I'm gonna be honest. A lot of people have been saying just straight up that this trade makes no sense for the Orlando Magic, and initially I thought the same. I truly did think the same. But if you actually look at the details of this trade, you'll find out that this is a lot more. This makes a lot more sense than a lot of people are giving it credit for. Let's see the details. Thank you, Shams. Thank you. This. Okay, so KCP. Let me just tell you the players that are moving first before I get into the picks. The players that are moving are Cole Anthony. Cole Anthony had a pretty good playoff run, but not the world's greatest. Sorry. It opened up something else. Anyway, Desmond Bane has been moved. I didn't think Desmond Bane would be moved this offseason. I did think that the Memphis Grizzlies were going to have to start doing some restructuring, but I didn't think Desmond would be on the move, considering he's one of the only players on the team that's consistently healthy, and he is their third best player. Now, if you look at Desmond Bane's numbers, which I'll pull those up as well, because it feels like every time I'm not equipped to pull up something, I have to pull up something else. Desmond Bane stats. He has a very small wingspan, so if you're wondering how their perimeter defense is going to look, probably not going to get much better because of his defense. So, pull this up. BasketballReference.com will actually be a better place to pull that up. So if you ever wonder where I get my stats from, it's either NBA.com or Basketball Reference. Sometimes StatMuse, but StatMuse is for like more specific stuff when I want to search it up through Google. Google is a search engine that most people use to silver clear. Don't know why I feel the need to explain those things, but I think it'll help with just not being boring as fuck. So he's 26. He played 69 games last year, which, looking at the amount of games he played, I was completely wrong about him being one of the most healthy players, but it seemed like he was more healthy than Ja and Jaren Jackson. Seems like that entire trio is injury prone, so I could see why they're trying to move off of him really quickly. But last year he averaged 19 points. 19 points, 5.3 assists, and 6 rebounds. So, and the reason I'm saying the the decimal for the assist is because I think it's a little bit more important than any of the other stats, to be quite honest. Because most people just round those down. I think the assist should be talked about with the decimal as well. I don't know why. These numbers are actually really good, and his field goal percentage was 48%. And on his that's his threes. His 3-point percentage is basically 40%. It's 39%, but I'm pretty sure that since we've seen 40+ seasons from him before, that had more to do with him taking more volumes, and the shots they were getting were a lot more difficult because he wasn't getting as much help from a Ja Morant. So just pointing that out. Okay, so what also was a new offense last year too, so that also takes into account. So that sorry, it's been a tough video so far. Anyway, Desmond Bane, I think this trade is not terrible. The production you're going to get from him is going to be much better than the KCP. KCP I mean this with no exaggeration, he was an absolute zero for them in the playoffs last year. The reason they lost to Boston is because they had absolutely zero perimeter offense. I know they're banking on Jalen Suggs to be healthy going into next season. If you're wondering why trade for Desmond Bane feels like he's been in the league for a while. He has been in the league for a while, but if you actually think about it and you look at the ages of the guys that are on their core, they're Franz Wagner's and the Pablo Bancheros and the Jalen Suggs of it all. He actually matches up with their timeline fairly well, considering he's 26, and the rest of those guys that I listed are like 22, 23. I think Suggs might be the oldest one of them at like 24. he actually winds up being on their timeline rather well. So what they did, so this trade consists of not just that, not just Cole Anthony, not just KCP, but they sent over the 16th pick in this year's draft for Orlando, which that's not a very high pick. It's actually right outside of the lottery. It can help Memphis in certain ways if they're really smart with it. And Memphis is a good drafting team, so I can see why they would be interested in this pick. But if you're Orlando, it's like inconsequential, to be quite honest, if you're getting Desmond Bane right now. Especially if you're trying to, especially because this team looked at their timeline and is like, well, we got to start making moves. Like, we want to win it now, right? With Memphis incurring all these picks, you could look to see them rebuilding. I'm not really sure how Memphis's pick situation is looking, but considering how well they drafted, it's probably not the worst thing in the world. As far as what else they sent over a pick swap between Phoenix Suns and the Washington Wizards. They got themselves out of that. I think it's the more favorable pick between those two. I could be wrong, though. So there's that. That's a 2028 pick. They sent an unprotected 2030 pick. That's something that's like 5 years away from now. We shouldn't even worry about it. And one of the pick swaps they did send over. One of the picks, by the way, the pick they sent over, 2026 pick, is the right swap between Phoenix and the Washington Wizards. Whatever one of those teams is going to be worse. Obviously, I think the Phoenix Suns will be a worse team than that, and it's a very valuable pick, especially considering that they're looking to move off of KD this offseason. They should be looking to recuperate as many picks as possible, and the team that has their picks, ironically enough, is Houston. So I think what they should do is trade Devin Booker to Houston. I think that's a pretty obvious move. Everyone's been saying KD to Houston, but I think given the fact that everyone knows that KD is moving, Booker is likely going to ask out. And if you're Houston, you want Devin Booker. He fits with your timeline a lot better than Kevin Durant. So there's that. That's a little bit of drama that I was going to save for later in the video, but I've been babbling and rambling. So there's that. The pick swap for 2029 is it's only top 2 protected, so that's not gonna that won't turn out for the Orlando unless something catastrophic happens and they win the lottery. So don't look to see that blow up in their face. The Memphis is likely going to get that pick. Right, so let's see. This the reason I think this is a good trade for Orlando and that everyone in the media about it has been covering it pretty wrong. I know smaller YouTubers have been covering it very well and been like, hey, well, look at the nuance of the situation and that he fits in well and they needed a shooting guard and they needed more perimeter offense. This helps them in the short term, and he also fits with their timeline. So it's not like when you look at the books, you're not going to be like, oh, dang, bro, you got Desmond Bane now, but like, what are you going to do in 2 to 3 years when you don't win anything and he wants to fucking leave? It's probably not going to happen that way. He's with guys that are around his age. And that goes into a lot with the locker room. When a group of players is around the same age and they have like a couple of veterans, that can really change the culture of a locker room and keep it consistent with each other. If these guys like each other, which I mean, they're professionals, but still, if they like each other, that'll help a lot. That he's on the same timeline as them. Bane fits in rather well with what they've got going on. He doesn't need to be the primary defender. Obviously, Suggs, if there's a perimeter threat, will be the primary defender, so we don't have to worry about that as much. And even though Bane's wingspan is short, he is a very strong guy. So if you see him if he gets switched onto a big close to the post, he actually will be pretty effective there. Now, he's not going to be able to front the post or stop them from getting the entry passes in, but once they actually try to post up Bane, they'll find it rather difficult. This can add a lot to their team, and I think that this could allow, especially with the East being as wide open as it has ever been, the Celtics are pretty much out of contention next year. I think Indiana will go home in the second round next year because it is tough to go to the championship nowadays, and hell, even be back in the conference finals is a miracle. It seems like at this point. So yeah, this pick is a great pickup. And initially when it was broken, and when I saw it initially, it was like 5 first-round draft picks for fucking Desmond Bane. I thought the Mikal Bridges trade was bad. Now, after looking at it, yeah, the Mikal Bridges thing is way, way worse. As far as the KD stuff, there's been a lot of news. His ideal landing spots don't really make a lot of sense to me. San Antonio's already, from what I've heard, San Antonio is already uninterested in the idea and the prospect of giving it Kevin Durant, especially considering what they might have to give up for it. I've been seeing the trade that they said would work out would be a 3-team deal with the Lakers getting involved, and I'm just like, first of all, why would the Lakers help them, right? I know the Lakers already have what they want, but the players they were getting in the trade was just completely irrelevant, and it felt like they probably only need them to make this happen because of where these teams are in salary wise. They're sending out Julius Randle to the Phoenix Suns, which I could see that kind of makes sense to me. But that's if you wanted him to land in. That was the Minnesota deal, by the way. The one for him getting into, the one for getting him to San Antonio was kind of gross. I think trading Devin Vassell just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I think I like those guys I like the Spurs core where they are right now too much, especially knowing that they're gonna have the number 2 pick in this draft. I think there's no reason in my mind to double down on getting a Kevin Durant when a Giannis could be available. Like, I just don't. KD's value is just not there, right? And we've already seen, recently at least, what teams that trade for KD wind up doing. It's not really a whole lot of anything. A lot of first round exits. This year they didn't even make the playoffs or the play in. So, yeah, I don't, and it's not even a KD thing. It's just, I don't know. I would certainly look into why KD teams kind of look the way they do. Trading for him is normally the reason. Yeah, I don't really know. The New York Knicks are interested in him. I don't see how they can get that move to happen. And KD would not want to go there because they just fired their head coach. Now, I know Tibbs was also a coach that KD probably doesn't want to fucking play for at all. The way Tibbs runs minutes, there's no way in hell KD at this age of his career would like to play that many minutes. And the Knicks have been interviewing every coach since firing Tibbs. I said it in my State of the NBA Coaching video when Tibbs initially got fired. I wasn't surprised that he got fired, but I was like, dude, this makes no fucking sense because who are you going to hire in his place? Right? Especially because Jalen Brunson, literally before he got fired, was like, oh, dude, I love him. It makes a lot of sense. And his dad was on the coaching staff. If you bring in a new head coach, right, are you going to keep the old coaching staff? Are they going to be okay with that? Is that going to fuck up the vibes? I don't know. It doesn't seem like a good move. But if also the whole, I had a nickel for every time Tom Thibodeau was fired because Karl Anthony Towns was out there. Also, I just looked at the numbers and they were like, it's Cat's team. If you look at the numbers, Cat just plays better, or the team plays better around Cat than they do around Brunson, which I found very weird. I don't know. Something to be looked into. They're like a really positive team with just Cat on the floor rather than him and Brunson. With him and Brunson on the floor, they're a very neutral team, and with Brunson on the floor and not Cat, they're a slightly better team than they are with both of them on the floor, and that has a lot to do with them being both defensive liabilities. One, because Brunson is like your point of attack defender. Because they're going to ask for a switch to get Brunson out, and that starts a motion of having the defense rotating. And if the defense has to rotate, that means Cat is likely going to be moved from the basket, especially with pick and roll being the most common way that teams play offense in the league. The only team that didn't run pick and rolls last year, like at all, to be quite honest, was the Memphis Grizzlies, which again made no sense because you have Ja Morant on the team. But regardless of all the things that I'm saying, I'm bringing down the X and O's of it. The defense is bad. We all know the defense is bad. We knew the offense was great, right? We saw the offense. We looked at the numbers. We can do all of that. We know that their offense was really good last year. Problem, defense is subpar. Just straight up. And that doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to have Tibbs as your coaches for that. And to be quite honest, now that I'm thinking about it, I don't really see what you're going to do after this because Tibbs was a defensive-minded coach that was getting a lot of effort from his guys. Now, who's going to be that guy? Who's going to be the guy that's going to get effort from these guys? Because the defense only was subpar or okay, to be quite honest, because of Tibbs' coaching and him getting effort out of the guys. If Brunson doesn't like the new guy that they hired, the defense might get worse, which New York, you had to have known this. Everyone, by the way, fans didn't even want Tibbs fired. Certain fans wanted Tibbs fired because they were like his fucking X's and O's were terrible. But like if you looked at just like the success of it, it was like, where are you gonna go from here? Tibbs had gotten you to 2 second round appearances and a conference finals appearance for the first time in 25 years. So I don't know. I would be at least willing to run it back another year. Yeah, that's gonna do it for me. The trade was the most important thing I broke down. The Kevin Durant landing spots really don't make sense to me. He wants to go to Miami. I don't see why Miami would do that as well, for a multitude of reasons. Mainly because they just moved off of Jimmy Butler, and if they weren't willing to play Jimmy Butler, why would they be willing to play Kevin Durant? Yes, Kevin Durant is a better player than Jimmy Butler, but they're like in the same ish tier, and it really doesn't move the needle like at all. And also, do you really think Tyler Hero is enough offensive help when Bam is gonna have to play significant minutes? Probably not, right? Especially because KD at this point in his career probably wants to play more off ball than he admits, right? And I think that he'd be most effective in an off ball role because obvious reasons. We saw how good he was on off ball in Golden State, right? And yes, he can still have moments of taking over the ball, but like, shouldn't be your entire offense. Yeah, that's gonna do it for me. Yep. Have a great day. To my new subscriber, thank you very much. And to my people, and to the people who watch this video all the way out to the end, thank you very much. Please like, comment, subscribe. And what did you get your dad for Father's Day? I got my dad tennis shoes. Peace.